Hello, thanks for tuning in and welcome to the pool party. I hope you can swim because we're definitely diving into the deep end with a huge splash of truth, facts, evidence, information, and proof. Swim. Say what you mean. It's talk about talking. How we listen, how we hear, how we speak, how we hear what we're listening to when we speak, how a listener hears what we're saying, if what we're saying, what they're actually hearing and or understanding. Is it clear? Swim. Say what you mean. Well, that's just the beginning of understanding, because after we get that understanding, how do we accept it? How we respond if it's not what we expect is paramount. Are you okay with the truth? Are you man, woman, human, or spiritual enough to accept the truth? Let's find out. Welcome to the Swimming Pool with your host, Travis Bridges.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? That would be me in 3, 2, 1. Here is. I remember watching an episode of The Little Rascals, and I was learning my verb tense and everything, and I heard Buckwheat come out and say, "Here I is," and I was like, "What?" Anyway, another long story. Welcome to the swimming pool. The swimming pool is SWYM, S-W-Y-M. That is the acronym for Say What You Mean. Here's hoping that you are saying what you mean, and not only that, that you are meaning what you say. You know why? Because it's important that you get an understanding and that you deliver a clear understanding. Because if you don't, you're going to have everything from rolling of eyes to smacking of teeth to some of the stuff that I can't even talk about on this family program. So do your best to say what you mean what you say, be clear when you say it. If you need to repeat it, be available to do that, okay? Anyway, hello, Kimberly. Hello, Anthony Morrow. And hello to the other 5 people who are hanging out with me this week. I really appreciate it. This time last week, I was in Virginia with my son. He had an emergency surgery that went over well. So again, thank you for the prayers and wishes. I'll talk about that a little bit later on. Also, as I get my next guest on, I have 2 guests. One guest I'm going to get on the phone in just a second, and we're just going to freestyle it today. There is a topic, and we're going to get that going here in just a second. Let me get my band going. Hey, y'all. And I'm going to get my caller on. By the way, if you'd like to chat with me, I'd love to chat with you. Travis Bridges 2 at AOL.com. I was told this week to start using my email for my website. So pretty soon I'm going to switch over from Travis Bridges 2 at AOL.com to Travis at TravisBridges.com. So get ready for that.
Yo.
Hey, man, what's crack-a-lackin'?
Nothing, just chilling.
Chilling. Well, you are live on the swimming pool, or in the swimming pool. And as you know, it's just talk about talking. And you know, I'm going to do something that I've never done before. We're only going to be on, you and me, for about 8 to 10 minutes. But I would like to talk about whatever is on your mind. But before I do that, how was your Father's Day last week?
Well, I don't celebrate holidays.
You don't celebrate holidays?
No.
Do you at least acknowledge the holidays?
No.
You don't even acknowledge them?
No.
Wow. Is that something you've always done, or something you just came to do, after you became of knowledge?
I guess became of knowledge, because they say the first step in any battle is to learn your enemy. And I realized I had no idea what Satanism was. Mm-hmm. So I studied Satanism, and I studied, what the Hebrews actually thought and how they lived their life. And I have a new understanding and perspective of, this battle I'm fighting.
Okay. And what battle would that be?
Evil.
Evil. Oh boy. Tell me about that one. So that has caused you to not celebrate or even acknowledge holidays that are recognized in the good old US of A and or around the world, because there are holidays that are worldwide. And so you just don't celebrate any holidays whatsoever.
Well, why do you consider it a holiday?
I don't consider it a holiday. I just kind of sort of, while in Rome, do as the Romans. It's just another day for me. It was Sunday for me, but because it was a holiday and I'm a part of the U.S., I just kind of go along with it. It doesn't matter to me. Just for the record, it was what was it called? Well, of course, at Father's Day, I congratulated my son for being a father to be. Just to kind of sort of participate. So I don't want to kind of get on one side or the other. It really doesn't make a difference to me. I just kind of acknowledge it. It doesn't cost me anything. It doesn't create any problems for me. So I just kind of go along with it. I don't, go out of my way to do anything. So I don't know if I answered your question or if I'm kind of caught up on stepping on my own tongue right now. Your question was, why do I celebrate?
Yeah. Why is it a holiday to you? What makes it a special day for you?
Well, just because it's on the calendar. I am far as I know, I accept being called a U.S. citizen, and it's a holiday that's celebrated in the U.S. because I am a part of, this geographical area. I just kind of celebrate, just to kind of go along, to get along. So it really doesn't make too big of a difference, but I kind of respect it, and I enjoy watching other people celebrate. If it makes them happy, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Me too. I have no problem with nobody and how they live their life at all whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think nothing negative of it. That's their own business. That's cool,
But you just don't do it.
Nope.
Okay. What do you celebrate? Do you celebrate anything, or do you acknowledge anything at all?
Celebrate like any holidays? Or
No,
like
just
that?
anything. I mean, the word celebration is in the dictionary. It's a word that I like to use. When I wake up in the morning, I just throw my fist up and say, "Thank you, Lord." That's kind of sort of a celebration for me. And, I hear different people of different backgrounds, particularly religious backgrounds, say, it's a pagan holiday, and whatever that means. Some people just don't. And I just kind of like to ask people. I had no idea what we would get into. It's kind of a new thing that I'm just trying out. What do you celebrate, or what do you acknowledge in life in general?
I'm so glad to, be aware. I feel so lucky, I feel extremely lucky, and I'm thankful for it all the time. When I think about it, I feel like I'm win the lottery every day.
Just life. So you celebrate life.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, that would. Yeah.
That's
so being aware, learning the things I've learned in my life, and I just feel lucky,
Okay. So now that you don't celebrate any of these holidays or acknowledge anything but life, how has that been for you? Are you happier? Do you feel like an outcast? Do you feel like you're just normal? Because you got to feel different, when everybody else is doing it, or everybody. I mean, you have to keep a calendar. How do you keep up with certain things that's going on? How do you keep time?
Well, that's the kind of stuff I'm into, like time, like how the calendars changed and all that kind of stuff. It's significant, and the things I think, but I don't. It's like I have a thing for me. I say if you have the same history, you have the same religion. It's the same thing to me,
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, no, go ahead.
For example, some people think the founding fathers came over here for good intentions. My history book says bad intentions.
Well, it's amazing you would. I've been celebrating. Well, I'm just acknowledging, so to speak, Juneteenth, which we just was also a part of, this week along with Father's Day. And, just to participate, I posted some things on my social media that I figured I would just this year anyway celebrate the whole month. And I've just been watching certain documentaries that have to do with the history of America and even world history, and particularly history of dark-skinned people, black people, African Americans, so to speak. And I found some interesting stuff. One of my friends on social media brought my attention to something about the U.S. not necessarily being a democracy, or the founding fathers did not intend for it to be a democracy. And I thought that was amazing. And there was this guy, I'm feeling so bad, I forgot his name. His last name was Williams. I want to say Walter or something, but I posted it on my page, and it was interesting to hear some of the things he said. Also, there was another documentary that I watched, Who We Are, or Who Are We? It's streaming right now. It was interesting. I've just been making this month, time for me in acknowledgement of Juneteenth, just to be, just at least more aware, because I was never a student in grade school anyway. I didn't get real smart until after I was an adult and went to college. But anyway, speaking on that, when you talked about the founding fathers and evil, so you think it was intended to be evil? And not necessarily, I guess that kind of coincides with what you just said. It wasn't supposed to be a democracy. It was supposed to just be a power and control. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, there's a whole lot more to it than that. But yeah, that's the basic premise of it.
Now, I guess you're saying that because you've experienced it, you feel it, or do you clearly see it?
Well, you can see it. And you can see it in history, and the certain things you can see it for a definite pattern, with the United States and how quickly it came to be the number one financial thing going in the whole world.
Mm-hmm. Now, for the sake of time, I just want to ask you a question about that, and then after I ask you the question, after you answer it, I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to come back with my special guest. But before you go, I want to ask you about that. With all of this new knowledge that we're coming into, all of the things that are coming, about, that are clearly, that are obvious, do you expect there to be a change? I mean, there's information that, that I don't want to say that it proves, but there's information that speaks to, the USA not necessarily being a democracy and being sort of kind of a power type thing, as opposed to people having say so. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think there's going to be a change? What's going to happen now that there's so much information, so much finger pointing at, what was meant to be is not really happening, and, just some of the things that are becoming obvious? I'm trying not to get into it. I'm going to let you answer that, and then I'm going to take a break. You think there's going to be a change? That's the specific and direct question.
You mean, when you say change, do you think the United States government philosophy is going to change? It's going to be, what do you mean by change?
Well, just generally speaking, some of the things we were told and some of the things we were promised, some of the things that, the country was founded on is not necessarily being adhered to specific and directly. And then there's been some proof of that in many ways. And now that more people are waking up and getting wise, and, it's now not just affecting, slavery at one time was just for black people, so to speak. But now, people of certain class is also starting to feel that fury, and it's just not, black people. It's kind of sort of everybody in a certain social class or a financial class. What do you think? Do you think there's going to be a change if these people start to begin to feel like they're being overpowered and they're not being heard or not being treated fairly? Do you think there's going to be a change? And answer that, and then I'm going to let you go.
I think I think people are gonna be, waking up and I think the major change is that, you know, another pandemic and people dying left and right everywhere, I think, and maybe with the uprisal all happening at the same time, you know, maybe something like that is kind of what I expect.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have to really think about it and have a more articulate answer for something that deep, you know.
Okay, there you go. That's our cue to have you to come back. Listen, man, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me, especially on short notice. I appreciate it. And I'm going to take a break now, and I'm going to come back with my guest. We'll talk again soon, man. Thanks again, okay?
All right, cool, man. Take care.
All right, 10-4. There you have it, the opener for SWYM. I do have another guest standing by, and we're going to have that guest in just a few minutes. Who is with me again? Kimberly is still here. Anthony Morrow. I've got 6 other people that are hanging out with me. And if you are by chance watching this live stream later in the week or later just in life, you know what? I appreciate it, and I thank you so much. This started whenever, COVID hit, and I played my horn quite a bit, and I kind of sort of, that didn't get old, but, I just decided I wouldn't play so much, and I would start talking. So here I am. I see how a lot of people start things, and I've started a lot of things, and I've quit, and I've thought about, stopping this, but there's something that continues to drive me, and I'm going to keep doing it. I've got some plans, and it's going to be great. Thank you so much for your support now and in the future. And do me a small favor, share it, okay? Share it with somebody. I need some subscribers. Anyway, hold the spot you got. I'll be right back.
Stay focused. Stay focused. Not everyone will like you, support you, or wish you well. Like you, but there are so many more that will love and appreciate you as you continue to move forward. In fact, many people don't even have eyes to see you. Many people don't even have eyes or ears to hear you. They're not even on the same frequency. Don't always think they're hating on you. Don't always think they're hating. I am convinced that for everyone that can't and won't see you, there are 100 more that can and will. You have purpose. You have purpose. Don't quit. Keep moving up. Don't quit. Step out and be bold. Step out and be bold. Your day is soon to come. And your testimony will be motivation for others. I believe. Stay focused. Stay focused. Mighty Horn Music. Smooth jazz, top 40, R&B, inspirationals, and more. Live from the Hollywood Home Studio. Like, share, subscribe. And thanks for tuning in.
Good evening, and welcome to another edition of the SWYM-ing Pool. I am your host, Travis Bridges, and we got a good one for you tonight. I've got a guest that's coming up that we don't have a subject or a topic yet. This is going to be the special edition of the SWYM-ing Pool. This is SWYM, SWYM. That is the acronym for Say What You Mean. And I'm going to do something a little different tonight. The guest this week is, of course, always a mystery guest. We never say names. We never do brands, titles, locations, or anything like that. But unlike most of the times, I have a subject and a topic, and we go from there. But this guest is going to pick the subject and topic, and that's going to kind of sort of put me on the spot. Guess what? I ain't scared. Anyway, last week was the special Father's Day edition, and happy belated Father's Day if you are a father and no one told you happy Father's Day. I got a letter here that I'm going to open from someone who thought enough of me to send me something for Father's Day, and I haven't opened it yet. I'm going to open it on the air and actually read it. I don't know if it's a letter, a card, if it's money, or what. I have no idea, but I'm going to open it and actually read it and share it with you guys. That's just how much I love you and how much I trust, some people who say they love me. Anyway, with that being said, last week I had a wonderful time with my son who suffered a mild injury that he is now recovering from. I was able to go up and visit he and his lovely wife and spend some time with them, and that was incredible. I left them in good hands, and thank you for your prayers and support. I believe that he is healing well. With that being said, we're going to get right into it because I have only a little bit of time with this caller, and I'm going to get the caller on the phone right now as we crank up the volume. Yeah. By the way, if you'd like to chat with me, I'd love to chat with you. TravisBridges2 at AOL.com.
Oh,
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Wonderful. You are live and you are on and in the swimming pool. This is SWYM, the acronym for Say What You Mean. It's SWYM. Do you get it? Say what you mean. Swim. Kind of cool, right?
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Right, and we're in the deep end. I'm going to need you to talk up a little bit because I know you got that sultry, sexy, smooth voice, but I'm going to need you to step it up a little bit just for my guests who can't wait to hear what we're going to talk about. Now, just before I got you on the phone, I told them that we're going to do something a little different this week. Normally, I have a subject and a topic, and we pick that subject and topic, and we talk about it. But this is going to be different. I'm going to be the one on the spot. The live stream, let me just tell you a little bit about it before we get into it. It's simply talk about talking. The topic really doesn't matter. It can be anything. The object is to listen, to hear, to pay attention. Make sure that you heard what you thought you heard, and you heard what the person thought they were actually saying to you. You ever been in a conversation with someone and someone takes something the wrong way? Have you ever had that happen?
Absolutely, okay. I have.
So you do understand the importance of having a conversation and not reacting before you have a clear, good understanding. I like to say I'm not religious, but I do know a little bit about the Bible, and I paid attention when I was in Sunday school, and the Bible clearly says, in all you're getting, get an understanding. I don't know why that has resonated with me, especially in my golden years, but I find too many people, too many circumstances where people don't get the full story and they just go on with their lives with either with an attitude or mad and go for months, weeks, sometimes years without even speaking to somebody, but all based on a clear misunderstanding. And it's very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
I'm doing up all the talking, right? Last week and the week before, my son and myself, he was my special guest, and I normally don't call names. No one will ever know your name, by the way, unless they recognize your beautiful voice. So we don't talk about names, brands, locations, or anything like that, but we do talk. But the subject came up last week, and it was IQ and EQ. I learned something different. I've always heard people talk about IQ. You got a low IQ or a high IQ, or, talk about how intelligent people have high IQs. But then we miss something. We don't talk too much about the EQ, which stands for emotional quotient, just like the intelligence quotient is for your IQ. So we got into that and how important it is to have a serious balance. And I am one who strongly believes in that. So with that being said, let's get into it. So how was your Wednesday so far?
My Wednesday's going splendid, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So do you have a... We'll talk about that Wednesday thing a little later. Anyway, tell me this. Did you come up with a subject or a topic? Because you're going to be putting me on the spot. You did? I'm a little nervous right now, right?
Oh, well, I'm not. I'm so looking forward to this.
Ooh. So let me ask you this, just to get some hints. Do I need to be on guard? Do I need to pray before I do this, or are you going to be easy on me?
You might want to have the Bible nearby, but I think you'll survive. I think you'll survive.
Well, before you got on the phone, I said to my guest, I ain't scared. She ain't going to punk me, so I'm ready. I'm going to give you some theme music for your topic. When I count to 3, I'm going to start the music, and then you're going to tell me what your topic is. You ready? 1, 2, 3. You're on. Your topic is?
All right. Great. So my topic is around how we think. Social norms, social influences, And have we fallen into the trap of social conditioning?
Okay. How we think.
Now, there's more to this, but I kind of want to lay it all out on the table first, and then we'll kind of dissect it a bit. How about that?
Okay, so let me make sure. How we think. I'm writing on my envelope. Social norms. Norms and what else?
Social influences.
Uh-huh.
And have we fallen trapped to social conditioning?
Oh, I like that trap word.
Mm.
Okay, I'm just making notes here. Okay, there we go. Okay, now go ahead and break it down.
Yeah, so as we dig a little deeper, these are some of the questions that I have to you around these topics. Is, in
wait, hold on
to the
before you do
that
that now. Are you going to give me the questions first, or you want to talk about it first?
No, we're not going to deep dive into any talk yet. I'm going to lay everything out on the table as I want to ask away in regards to the topic.
Okay.
And then you can decide how we'll dissect and begin to answer. How about that?
I like it.
You okay with that?
I like it. I'm okay with that.
All
Audience,
right.
are y'all okay with that? My audience says they're okay with that. So, okay.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, audience.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here we have it. How does this impact the way we think, our attitudes, our behaviors, and the roles we play in life? Does it play a role in our sense of perception and how we interpret the world around us? How do we communicate, how we react, our emotional reactions, a mental mind frame? Next question. Do we condition ourselves into certain roles and behaviors based on the perception of self, heuristics, misinterpretations, and personal bias?
Personal what?
Personal bias.
Okay, go ahead.
Yep. No, I'll leave it there because that's enough to probably take us more than our allotted time.
Okay.
So I'll let you go ahead and decide to take it in stride there.
Okay. I need you to repeat the attitude part because that's what stood out mostly. If you could repeat the first question and then I'll try to get into it. But I know I'm going to start with the attitude part. So could you just repeat the question?
So remember that this, sure. So remember that this piece is actually tying into the topic of how we think, our social norms, social influences, and what we think around that in regards to social conditioning, right? How does this impact the way we think, our attitudes, our behaviors, and the roles we play? We can start there.
Well, I'll just say this way. If we were born in... Hold on one second. I've got to fix something on my... just give me a second. Yeah, here we go. I have an electronic fish tank. You've got to laugh with me.
I'm laughing with you.
I have an electronic fish tank, and every now and then the fish kind of jump out the water. So I have to
Get
put
out
them
of
back
here.
in. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I have to
Okay.
put them back
That's
in.
pretty cool.
Yeah. So anyway,
All right.
Okay, now we'll get right into it. Let me look at it this way. Okay, I was born and raised in North Carolina. Okay, you following me?
I'm following.
Okay, I was raised by a single mother. There was no father, in my home. I had 5 other siblings. We kind of grew up based on what I describe in my book as kind of sort of poor from a financial perspective, but we had a lot. We were rich when it came to, the things that really mattered, Now, because I was born and I was reared and raised in that setting, I turned out a certain way. I was by default raised in a Christian home, Christian environment. That was the norm for my region, for my family history, and it's just what we did. The food we ate, we ate real soul food. And poor people's soul food is, bologna sandwiches and, what do you call it? TV dinners and no name brand drinks. We just kind of ate like that. Now, if I was raised in a different side of town, with both parents and maybe one or two siblings instead of five other ones, where my parents came from a different background, I would eat differently. I would talk differently. I would dress differently. And depending on what region it is, I would probably be from a different, even religious background. So I'm thinking that how we're raised at home has a greater impact than anything that could matter when we're out, from a social perspective. So I don't know if I went too deep or too far back, but I think where we start has a greater impact than, where we end up or where we find ourselves as 20-year adults, 20 years past the age of 18. Let's just say that.
No, you make a really good point. Excellent point, because, on one of my recent discussions at the university recently, we were talking about, past history and experiences, right? I mean, when you think about, we're putting social society norms right now aside, those, what you just mentioned, actually do impact how we behave today, how we grow up to be. At least it plays a role. It's instrumental to how we curve out to be, so to speak. So what would you say is, from your past history, what impacted you the most, and how does it resonate in who you are today?
It's amazing you would be talking about this, because as you may know, I've been writing a lot, and I'm going to reveal a lot of this, but I can do like a little semi-spoiler. What impacted me the most, I would say, and I'm not trying to speak for anybody else, but me personally, I think it applies to so many other people, but how I saw myself, what I fed my brain, what I received in my subconscious is what affected me the most, because based on how I felt, that's what I gravitated towards. Although my mother was awesome, and even the people around me, the village around me, they were great people, there were some things that I missed in terms of how to feel about myself, how to view myself, or how to deal with some of the things I felt inside that may not have been inspiring. So those are the things that I held inside, and it helped to shape and mold who I was from a subconscious and protective perspective. So the things that I was self-conscious about, I built a level of protection around those things. So without going too deep into that, what impacted me the most was what I thought, how I felt. That was not necessarily the truth of who I really was and what my condition was. I hope I answered your question with all that.
You did, but to just dissect that just a little bit, you made a mention about you being very rich in something. So you weren't a family of, that had, like obviously a status of maybe middle class or upper class, so to speak. So maybe you were poor growing up, but you were rich in other things. And then you talked about your exposure to church, probably, and your religious aspect. Did this also influence how you curved out to be today, the man you are?
Absolutely. I'll definitely say, my spiritual upbringing definitely did, because it gave me an automatic conscience, although naturally we know right from wrong, just as, it's just built in. But there were certain things I heard in church and around people who were, inspirational, without saying religious. I developed a level of conscious of what was good and what was not good, and what was best, and, what was considered acceptable, for how I was raised. So yes, some of that stuff later I can see now how it was not good for me, because I just totally accepted so much of it without questioning it or studying it for myself or getting a meaning that resonated with me. So yes, what I heard and how I felt from a religious or spiritual perspective had a massive impact. And you were talking about things that I wasn't so rich in. yes, I came from my mother definitely made sure, we had food and we had clothes. We were protected. I did feel like I was loved, but subconsciously, because I didn't have some of the things that I wanted, I felt like I was missing something. And those are the things that made me feel a little less accepted, in society amongst my peers, and that may have caused me, or may have had a negative impact on how I viewed myself. So again, I hope I'm not learning too much. Did I answer your question?
No, absolutely not. This is all, very interesting. Now, let's take it a little bit on the flip side. You made a mention about, if you have both parents, you might ate differently or talk differently. Perhaps you were taking up a different type of religion. Who knows, right? That's hypothetical, right? That's in theory. So let's think about, I'm just want to throw out a scenario. We had maybe, someone who was raised up in a home with two parents, could have been loving parents, could have even been, the father was a pastor and they grew up that way, and they had siblings, but the mother was very nurturing, had plenty of time for them, and the social status was, commendable. Financial status of the family was great too. They lacked nothing, right? But then when you think about society in which we live in today, right, how that can actually impact the way a person carves out to be. So you have, especially our youth today, or as they were beginning to grow up, you have a lot of social influences today that are very different from probably when you and I grew up, right? But thinking about that, who's to say that that person probably would have turned out better or not, and why?
That just goes to show you, and I'll go ahead and speak based on my experience. I did have some peers that did have, two parents in the home and had a greater lifestyle based on, my thoughts of lifestyle. I guess they had a little more, better quality of life, it seemed, than I did. And when I look at them today, I can't see how I am much different or so much farther away from them in terms of how I turned out. But I'm going to go ahead and take, some of the credit for that, because, that was based on some of the choices that I made, but yeah, you're right. Who's to say? No one is to say. It doesn't really matter. But I will go ahead and say this. I think it is better on, children in particular, when there are two level-headed parents, in the home, and, it's a family structure, that is productive for the rearing of productive children, because, you can have two parents in the house and they may not be stable, or you can have one in the house and, a good, strong mother or a good, strong father can do just as well. And as you said, there's no one to say. It could vary based on, different circumstances. Again, I'm not sure if I'm answering a question or if I'm just kind of vibing with you on that.
No, we're going with the flow here.
Yeah, no one is to say.
So then why do we end up with our youth falling? This goes back to that question, right? The social influence of, let's bring it to today, for example. And we can always go back into time if we like. But if we look into society as it is today, we have social media, we have, technology, we have our peers, and things of that nature, right? Sometimes these could be influences on how we behave, how we react and respond, and what we do. So even though this child might have grew up in where they were nurtured, they were great, funds are great, this is a child that can fall into the trap of social norms, I feel, and you can always comment on this, but when you think about the high rates of, young children or young teenagers committing suicide because of social media, and you think about some of the traps of, predators and children, and, putting themselves in that predicament, or even doing drugs for that matter. Why? You came from a home that gave you everything. And then we can have the latter part scenario. I'm going to put you in that latter part where you were raised by one parent. You didn't have it all. You struggled. You did what you had to do to survive. But it carved you out to be the man you are today. A successful man, a man of integrity, a man of morale, good value. Where? So would you agree that social norms can influence that type of behavior?
Absolutely. And I'll even throw an example in there with it. I like to talk about, living in South Florida. I'm going to kind of take the long way with this. And my son is probably cringing right now. He said, Dad, you take too long. But anyway, I'm going to just give you an example before I answer your question. I live in South Florida, and I'm only, 17 minutes from the ocean. Even in traffic, at any given moment, I can drive down to the beach. When I was a kid, it took us over 2 hours to get to the beach. And going to the beach was like something, first of all, we had to wait for the summertime. And then we had to wait, a special day and time in order to go to the beach. But now that I'm here, and like many other South Floridians, we don't take advantage of our tax-paying dollars by going to the beach often as we would if we didn't have it. Just like certain people have swimming pools. I used to have a swimming pool. I don't have a swimming pool now. If I had a swimming pool, I'm saying right now I'd be in it every day, all the time. But when you have it, you don't. And I think it lends itself to that as it relates to, people who have things. Sometimes we don't value, what we have, either until we lose it or until we don't have it anymore. People that have plenty of stuff, it doesn't mean the same to them. I used to talk to my friends about working in fast food restaurant. It's like, man, if I worked here, I'd eat those hamburgers, and they would say, no, you wouldn't. And it's true, because you would probably get your feel of it, and it wouldn't mean that much. I talk about there's this ice cream place that I used to go to. They're no longer in business now. And I used to say, man, if I worked here, I'd be fatter than I am. And they would say, no, you wouldn't. And it's true. I think that same thing happens when you are in a certain place. When you are brought up and you don't have these things, it causes you to think differently about them as you continue to grow and you have access or the opportunity to get some of the things you felt like you were missing out on. Like, for instance, myself, I was raised without, two parents. And then, unfortunately, I ended up raising my son on my own. But one thing I remember saying is, I want him to remember that his father was there, because I know what I felt, what I felt like growing up without a father. And I hope, he, appreciates that. He tells me all the time he does. So I won't even say that. But yeah, I think that lends itself to exactly what you're talking about. People that do different things different ways. Hold on. One of my fish jumped out again. Hang on a second. Oh, there we go. All right.
I think they're trying to, I don't know if you ever saw that Nemo movie where
this is a digital tank, though.
Trying to jump out the fish tank because they were trying to make it to the ocean. Maybe he heard, he's only 17 minutes away, guys. I can make it to the ocean.
Well, these fish are trying to get, they're trying to pay bills. So that's why they're jumping out. But anyway, trying to stay focused and back to my point, I think what you have, you don't appreciate it as much. And I don't want to use the word appreciate. You don't see it the same as if when you don't have it. So people with two parents in the house, some of my friends would, get tired of their mom and dad, whenever it's just, as for me, I always missed, the presence of, a male figure. I had Boy Scout leaders and coaches and, even a few teachers later on that, kind of sort of filled some of that void. But it was something that I missed, and something that, was inside of me and caused me to be the father I am. So, yeah, there you go.
That's a good feedback there. I can only chime in and say, it's not like we're having a focus group full of people that I can interview and say that, hey, this seems to be a trend here going on. But I can only relate in that, I grew up, my grandmother raised me, and my mom was always working. She was a single parent too, probably divorced my dad when I was probably around 9. So I will say that growing up with my grandmother, she raised me up to be, in a very conservative home. We weren't even allowed to sleep at other people's homes or anything like that. Shoot, I'm still trying to see if I can learn how to dance, because she would never let me go out to parties or anything like that. But I will say, that really influenced my sense of who I am too, and my conservative nature. I'm not one to just go to clubs, and so again, influencing the way I behave and the way I react. So if someone says, "Oh, I want to go to a club," I'm like, "No, that's not for me." So right away, I make an identification that that's not somewhere that I would like to be, nor is it comfortable for me. As opposed to, now knowing that I'd rather just go to maybe a lounge and listen to maybe Travis play, for example. So that would be awesome, right? So,
well, speaking of that, not to steal
out
your thunder right now, I do start a gig tomorrow night, and it's on my website, travisbridges.com, for those who want to know. I will be doing, I have a 6 or 8 week, agreement with a place over in Coconut Creek that I'll be working at. And it's a new thing. They're bringing me back from before COVID started. But anyway, I'll talk about that later. Anyway, go ahead and do your thing.
No, this is great. You guys heard it here. He's playing tomorrow. So
yeah. And it'll be my first regular gig in almost 2 years. I've been doing private stuff, but now I'll be back out there. And I'm kind of sort of a little nervous, but I think it's just going to come back, to me. But anyway, so you were talking about instead of going out, you'd rather come out and hear, some smooth jazz or something a little easier on the ears.
But more importantly, it really carved out, I was the oldest out of 5 siblings myself. And I was always the one, looking after my siblings and helping my grandmother out with the kids' homework, always, walking them to school, doing all that stuff. And, Mom wasn't really around a lot. I wish she was, but, I didn't have the male figure, but I didn't have much of that female mother figure, the nurturing part of it. So I will say that as I grew older, I learned to be the oldest. I learned to be in charge. I learned that I had to look after them. I learned to be protective, to secure, make sure everyone's okay. And that has definitely influenced the woman that I am today, in a sense where, even at work, I take that kind of work ethic too when I'm working with other people. I'm dependable. You can count on me. I roll up my sleeves. I'm ready to work and get this done. And it's funny that I'm just thinking, the 2 most important women in my life passed away when I was 21 years old, so I had to raise my siblings. I will tell you that that's when it really kicked in, the survival mode. And all the things that my grandmother helped to install in me as a leader, as someone to strive in life, really helped me to become that very strong, I wouldn't want to say alpha female, but I kind of am.
Yeah, don't say that.
Because,
don't say that.
I don't like to say that, but it's more of a sense of that strong woman that upheld the fort through all the years and raised all her siblings, raised her children at the same time, and survived. I can't really say that many people have gone through that in life, but again, those early childhood experiences and things that you've experienced actually carves you out. But where do social influences actually take a role on what you become? That also plays a big role. Like, one of the biggest topics today is, we got some serious topics about kids, even if we got 2 parents in a household, male and female, for example. And you have transgender stuff going on. You have a homosexuality going on. You have a lot of topics our youth are faced today. How do we deal with that? So I know I don't want to go too deep because that's probably a topic for another day.
Well, we have 2 topics for another day, and I want to change gears. I'm going to shift into a different lane right now. You said something that triggered something inside of my head. You said that word, alpha female. That's definitely another live stream, and I'd love to have you back for that one. But you said something. This is a little off. We're about to go, and I'm going to say we're going to stay on for about another 7 or 8 more minutes, and then we're going to have to go. But just before we go, let's make a little thunder here. I heard you talk about your mom, and I specifically, if I'm not mistaken, maybe my audience can help me. I heard you say your mom divorced your dad at what time? What age was that you said, or early off?
It was about 9 or 10, somewhere around there.
Okay. Yeah. So I heard something specifically that I kind of want to touch on. And if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But you said your mom divorced your dad. Is that how that went down? Wow. I mean, that is kind of sort of common. Women, I think, file for divorce 75% of the time. Did you know that, or can you relate to that being true?
I can relate to that being true. I don't have the data to back it up at this moment, but I can believe that.
Yeah, well,
I think, yeah. Sorry.
Okay, no. I've heard it many times, and I haven't researched it myself, but I've heard on so many different platforms that women do file for divorce 75%. It's 75% of the time, or a greater number. I do at least remember hearing that on one of the platforms.
Yeah, well, I think, again, the society in which we live in has influenced that a lot, because if you think about when women gained the right to vote, and women became more independent, and they took more of a role out in the workforce, right? And our world just evolved into a place where it embraced the presence of women more. Women became more empowered. If you remember historically, there was that term used, oh, she's going to be a woman barefoot and pregnant at home, because that was the role deemed for a woman, versus when the woman took a predominant different role because societal changes took place when the Great Depression and everything happened and war happened, and many of the men, didn't come back from war. And then women had to go out there and they had to survive. That changed the landscape for women altogether. And it changed social norms too. And so what that painted was a picture of, not, unfortunately, it would have been nice to keep it, but the importance of marriage and the sacredness of marriage. All right, we could talk about that on a totally different show, because there's a religious aspect to that and my own belief. But, at the end of the day, women are apt to believe today, I don't have to be in an uncomfortable situation or continue being in a situation that I don't want to be with anymore because I'm not happy. And so they find themselves, because of, that influence of not having to endure and not having to take certain, situations, that I can walk away from this anytime I want. So I'll hang it there and kick it back over to you.
Okay. Unfortunately, we are almost out of time, but I do want to ask you about that. Oh my God, that's a hot topic. So now I like to ask all of my guests, if it wasn't too painful thus far, will you come back? I would like to talk about the dynamics as it relates to, women somewhat. You didn't say the word. I was waiting. If you had said that word that starts with an I don't spell good. If you had said that, I probably would have just extended our time, but I'm just going to say it. There seems to be a shift in a word that I don't like to use, called independence. You didn't say it, but you were talking about a type of shift. Did you in any way mean as women begin to become more independent? Were you alluding to that
definitely.
At all?
Yeah. I mean, we could use the word independence, or, someone, women who, now I probably use the word survive, because when you think about someone that's in survival mode and don't have anyone around them, they're doing everything on their own to survive.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. Well, as much as I'd love to get into that, I'm going to go ahead and honor, my word, in that I said I wouldn't keep you but for a certain amount of time. I think this has been wonderful, but I do want to ask you a question about that, because you brought it up. Do you think that it made an impact, because you said your mom is the one who divorced your dad, and not to get too personal, do you think it makes a difference when women are the ones who file the most for divorce? Do you think that has a greater impact on society, as opposed to either men not being there or men, do you think, I've got to be so careful here. Women filing for divorce, does that have any great impact on society in terms of, how our village is raised?
Absolutely.
Real quick, we won't get into it heavy, but we
don't need to get into it, but absolutely, I do agree there is an impact there. But there is an integration of a lot of factors there. So, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Listen, Thank you so much. This has been wonderful and interesting. And I think now the next time, I've never tried it like this where I kind of let my guests, pull the trigger and go with the subject moving forward. I think I'm going to take that back. So you were the first and probably will be the last. But I think the next time, let's go ahead and put our topic out there. The next time we'll talk about that movement, whatever you called it. You mentioned the depression, and then you talk about women surviving, and then somehow or another that independence word slipped in there. That has, had a great impact on how, children are raised, as more families become single households as opposed to, dual households. We'll talk about that the next time. You okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Thanks for having me.
Can I get you inside of 30 days? Now, remember, my audience is listening. Can I get another 30 minutes out of you inside of 30 days? Come on now. Don't turn me down now. We're on the spot. Say
no,
yes.
I'm happy to come back, Travis.
Awesome.
Happy to come back.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Do try to spread the word for me. My live stream is on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's simply entitled The SWYM-ing Pool, SWYM. It is the acronym for swim, and we like to dive in deep because I think it's important to say what you mean what you say. Not only that, whoever's listening need to know what you said, know what you meant. You also need to know what they heard and whether or not what they heard is what you meant. Having conversations like this, and ones that can even get deeper as we're going to get the next time, is how I think cuts down on a lot of confusion. And as the word simply says, in all you're getting, get an understanding. So with that being said, thank you so much. Do me a small favor as you make your way through the rest of the week. Can you do me a favor, please?
Go ahead.
Find somebody that you need to say I love you to, and don't say it, but show it. Can you do that?
Oh, amen. I could definitely show it.
Okay. All right. Have yourself a good evening. Thank you so much. And I will be in touch with you. Okay.
All right. Take care.
Bye. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Yet another successful interview on the SWYM-ing Pool. Your host, Travis Bridges. As I mentioned, every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I take to the airwaves. Not to be popular or famous or even controversial. I got a feeling that some of that stuff is on the way as people go. When I first started, I think I remember getting to 100 subscribers when I was playing my saxophone. Now I've got over 500, and I am proud of that. Steady as I go. And again, I just want to talk about things. I want to be a listening ear. And I say this often, I'm not a doctor, psychologist, psychiatrist, but I think I've lived long enough to be open when it comes to looking at the odds and looking at the dynamics of every and any situation. And a lot of people have problems and they don't know how to solve it. And I think that's what doctors and psychologists and counselors and even ministers, are for, to listen and to hear. Well, I just, kind of sort of anoint myself with that, and just being open to just listening and weighing options. So if you have a topic you'd like for me to discuss, or if you'd just like to share something with me, I'd love to give you my non-biased thoughts, views, and opinions about that. And I was told recently, if I'm not a professional, I don't have the right to give my opinion. So I need to come up with a different word as opposed to an opinion. How about just my insight on it? Okay, with that being said, have yourself a wonderful evening. I love you so much. And if there's any way that I can show it, you know how to find me. Until the next time, have yourself a fantastic rest of the week, okay? Good night. Well. Guess what? I am back. I said earlier that I was going to open my Father's Day card on the air, and I almost forgot. I'm doing some bold stuff. As I was talking with my buddy earlier, I'm not a big celebrator or acknowledger of stuff, but I got a card, and I'm going to be bold enough to see what's in it. This is what we used to do when we were a kid. Ooh, look at all that money. Anyway, okay, this is a Father's Day gift card from a dear friend who thought enough of me to send me this, and I'm going to read it and share it with you guys as I get it. And I hope it's shareable, because I got friends who say stuff that they probably don't need to be saying. But it goes like this. Happy Father's Day. Keep taking good care of you. 2022. Travis, just your early reminder of what an amazing dad you are. Being a good dad starts with being a good man. You are a guy who's clear on what really matters in life. It shows in how you take care of the people you love and how you treat everyone. You're a good man with a good heart, and you deserve A? You deserve an A? Okay, guess that's what that means. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I remember when my live stream used to go off, I used to talk a little bit, and I was trying to get ready for, I guess, what was coming, the swim program. I didn't know the swim program had not been birthed yet, but I was practicing, and now it's underway to the point where I can start making some changes. Do you like the scenery around? I've got my digital fish tank in the back, and I've got to get my keyboard in here because I was practicing the other day and I needed to hear something and I couldn't figure it out, so I missed that from my other studio. But I'm gonna do some things bigger and better. So with that being said, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna get on up out of here and have a good night. Those who stayed with me, I've got 4 people who stayed. Who are those 4 people? Who are my friends? All right, anyway, have a good night, y'all, okay?
You can run, but you can't hide. You can run, but you can't hide. A type of court system designed to settle conflict is humane. The right to due process and a fair, speedy trial is also humane. Direct questioning and cross-examination is legal intelligence at work. Having witnesses in the order of a judge, jury, spectators, and documentation for reference is order and intelligence at work. Lawyers study psychology, and psychologists study universal principles or law to 99.999% flaw-proof, solid evidence in reaching a legitimate and/or logical conclusion based on a reasonable expectation of emotionally stable individuals. Even the opportunity to appeal and a retrial is humane. Truth, facts, sincerity, and even certain types of remorse hardly ever need further questioning, as they represent themselves clearly based on universal principles and universal law. The natural ability and desire to avoid pain, discomfort, and harm is without question why most individuals are initially dishonest when confronted with conflict. The almost natural reaction or response to use diversion is a defense mechanism that can help save one from that harm and be the culprit of having oneself totally consumed by that same harm. Extreme diversity is necessary within humanity. It sets the tone for balance or justice and even gives logic its primary reason for existence.
Intelligence and communication always guarantee order when logic and universal principles are primary factors or common goals within humanity. Dominant personality traits and the inner desire to manipulate universal principles gives the God-devil concept the platform to lend itself to the extreme diversity concept. Truth is silent without a lie, and a lie or sound is only birthed when truth is contested. The essentials of a lie are not based on silence. Good and evil is to positive and negative, as prosperity and failure is to a lie and the truth. My point? There is an answer to every question, a solution to every problem, an understanding to all confusion, and a right to every wrong. There's even peace within any storm. The intelligence discovered within the ability, desire, patience, and time to reason based on universal principles and law is the foundation of order, peace, justice, and life itself. You can run, but you can't hide.